yesterday when we were there, they were, the last 9 residents had just checked out. We also heard they had been preparing in other ways previous to that, but, so it's been operational until yesterday.
The only reason I asked that question is obviously dealing with security.
Mm-hmm.
You know, security for man camp's different than security for a place holding underage kids. But
Don't know who was, you weren't dealing with any of the security out there, they weren't having any issues or anything. And we were told yesterday that HHS would be dealing with the security inside once kids start arriving, and then Cincinnati County is responsible for whatever happens outside the gate. We have some DHS folks there that command the gate and not let folks in, but if it happens on the pavement, it's our responsibility, and yet we have no clue it is coming.
I think it's important to note that when the feds were telling us yesterday that they would be taking care of security, and I know it's the concern of these 2 gentlemen here in their departments, if you drive out there, I've known some 13 through 17-year-olds, and I think that little wooden nice little fence they have out there is probably not going to keep someone from running, and so there's a concern, even though there are Federal Protective Services vehicles all over the place. It's probably a pipe dream. When we hear the federal government say they'll take care of security, it's going to end up on our community as well. So until they do something to notch up that security, it's just a wide open, might as well just be unfenced.
okay.
What we were told yesterday was that there would be 700 kids there. It would be about a 2-week process, and they were going to build a 10-foot security fence around the entire encampment. It's not quite as big as the horseshoe facility, which is 80 acres, but it's awful large. So if you're just going to do something for 2 weeks, that's a lot of effort to go to 10-foot security fence and go around. But it's not in place right now, like the mayor says, those kids can still jump and run. We kind of feel like they're setting up for the long term, so that's a frustrating part.
And so just to be clear, one other thing on, were these kids specifically seeking asylum that you know of, or were they just?
I don't think we know any details. We haven't been given anything. The only thing we have been given is that some of them have tested positive for COVID. But they are shipping kids here who are positive for COVID,
But they're shipping them on separate buses.
on a separate bus, so we can all feel good about that. And we've also asked them point blank, if any of these kids need medical attention, will they be providing that medical attention? And if it basically gets past first aid, it will fall upon our hospital.
What do we know about the company, and how has communication been with the company since you guys were made aware of who was involved?
We had a representative there yesterday during our talk with the officials that were there. They were talking a 2-week time frame, and just previous to that conversation, the representative of the company had said they had signed a 90-day lease with extension options for extensions. But that's about all. I do know that oilfield, they deal with large oilfield companies, the Schlumbergers, the Halliburtons, those I don't need to pick out in the company. Those type of size companies worldwide, they also have military contracts worldwide.
So are you expecting them to, after the 2 weeks, bring in more kids after 2 weeks and
We
so
have no
forth?
idea, no idea.
I think it'd be naive to not expect that.
Yeah.
I think the fact of the matter is, once one child is gone, they'll ship another child or 2 in. And for us to even assume that they're going to be here less than a month or less than 90 days is naive unless we get something done.
Did all 700 kids arrive last night, or is their children still arriving?
The last word I had, 240 are there at this time, and that's the last I heard.
Do you know anything about what the process is going to be moving forward as far as where the children are going to go, where they're going to be released to?
I can tell you that we were told yesterday in that same meeting that each child, because we were wondering, what's the disposition of this and how are you going to deal with it? And they said they all come with a list of names in their pockets. And as soon as they, of relatives, and as soon as they contact a relative off of that list, then they will be transported to that, whether it's somebody in Boston or somebody in Miami or whatever. So that's essentially how they're dealing with it. If they make it here and they got a name, they get to move on and stay.
I would use the word relative very loosely. We've been told by those who have this experience that those lists usually include even traffickers that are here. So again, it'd be very naive for us to assume that these kids aren't getting caught up in all kinds of different issues. Some of them will have relatives for sure, but if you start just logically thinking about the crossing of the border and then the just wanton choice of kids being selected and moved up here, There is no rhyme or reason to it, so for us to think there's a rhyme or reason to how they're gonna get to a safe place, sort of stretches credulity at best.
Do you have any idea how long they've been preparing to bring these children to this facility?
All together now? No?
No. We know there was a lot of legwork behind the scenes done. Prior to me hearing it on the news, Salvation Army had been out there 24 hours before that. Contracts for the facility were made prior to that, so there was stuff done way prior to us knowing that.
I wouldn't be surprised if it hadn't been in the works for at least 6 weeks. If you know how government works and how government contracts work, and how you get approval, for us to think that this just happened just in a couple of days would once again be quite foolish.
Can I ask you guys to come up to the mics to respond? That way we can hear you guys better. Is that all right? My question is this taking away resources from Midland County when you guys are dealing with this? Does that take away any law enforcement or any other resources? And how is this being funded?
It's a federal deal, so hopefully your taxes are paying for it through your federal income taxes. Right at this moment, we're not expending anything through law enforcement or medical, but those things are going to happen. Count on it. There's going to be issues. We're going to be called out there. We're going to have to deal with things. The longer it goes on, it's going to end up costing millions of dollars.
I don't have anything to add to that. That's just absolutely true. It will cost us.
Has there been a discussion of using the facility in Payton, the youth detention center, as a?
There has been no discussion. There are lots of man camps all over the Permian Basin that have been far better choices than here in Midland or Odessa, and there was no discussion. This was just literally, ran down our throats is what this happened.
Again, just so you guys know, and once again, usually when politicians repeat something, they're trying to keep you from knowing something. I'm just repeating this for the real facts. We literally knew nothing until, for me, it was early Sunday morning. We knew nothing. And that's when we started the phone calls yesterday, started today. It's the strangest, most backward, disrespectful thing I think I've seen in a very long time.
Would you consider talking to whoever's in charge to move it to Payton?
We don't know who's in charge. I talked to anybody. That's why we talked to Congressman Craddock today to see if we had any leverage at the state level with Mr. Paxton. And that's why August is talking to whoever he can talk to at the federal level. We don't know who to talk to. And when we're on a phone call, we're usually on a phone call with about 7 different agencies that all end with an acronym with the letter S behind it. And none of them, I've yet to have one of them answer a question. They use the Jen Psaki line. We'll circle back with you on that. We don't have an answer for that yet. We're going on 24 hours now without an answer.
Were you disappointed that the governor made the announcement on Fox News instead of contacting you all directly?
I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I would assume that the governor knew about as much as we did. I'm not sure the governor knew much more than we did, considering the fact that the federal government isn't exactly a great fan of Texas, the Republic of Texas, and so I'm not sure he knew anything more than we knew. And in talking to Mr. Craddock, he said at the state level, we're in the dark as much as you guys are.
And there were rumors yesterday that the horseshoe facility might be used in all of this. Can you address that?
I had many people asking me, was that happening? No, we've never been approached or asked if somebody was thinking about it. They never brought it to our attention.
Can we hear from law enforcement about what you all are doing to prepare for any possible emergencies?
Well, as you can see in the crowd today, we have representatives from the County Sheriff's Office, Mike with us. We have the police department and their chiefs. My deputies are here as well. We can assure you that Midland County and the citizens will be protected in this crisis. That's our priority. That there's their safety and the security for our citizens in that area. We are increasing our patrol bots out in that area just to make sure, and our utmost thing is to protect our citizens in all this. Because like Patrick and the judge said, I was caught off guard as well. We were all in the dark until we got a call that it's fixed to happen, and we started scrambling to get things taken care of for our citizens.
Has there been any communication with the federal government with you directly?
Well, we had a meeting yesterday with DHS and HHS, and like Patrick said, we were on a phone call yesterday afternoon, You ask a question, you have to get back to us. No one has an answer. No one's accepting responsibility for what happened yesterday. When we ask them questions, there's no answer. We just get to run around. Thank you for Mr. Fluger's staff. They're out there batting for us in the situation. It's a pleasure to have them. Cal Seliger's involved in it, and also Craddock's involved as well to get this thing resolved for our citizens and their safety.
Have you guys gotten any wind of protests or people coming out to this facility now that on social media it's kind of gone around that this is where this location is or where the holding center is? Do you think anyone's going to come out and protest? And if so, how do you plan to respond to that?
I don't think anybody has done that yet. I've heard of many people talking about that, but we'll just handle it one situation at a time. It's hard to speculate what might happen out there.
No, the only thing that we would say from the police department is whatever resources we need to help lean towards the sheriff's department, of course, we're going to do that. They're obviously point on anything that might happen in the county, and so if that leads to needing us to assist them in any way, we'll absolutely do that.
If I might mention something about the protesting, our hope is that well-meaning folks would avoid protesting out there, and for one simple reason. It's the first thing I told everybody about, which is the two issues we're dealing with. We're dealing with kids, and then we're dealing with the federal government. And right now, there's going to be, 200, up to 700 juveniles there, and not much is going to be accomplished by protesting. Everybody who's out there at that facility is doing the job that they've been given to do. The protest and the voice that needs to be heard is our voice at the federal level, and I mean by writing your representatives and telephoning your representatives. Might be a good idea not to go to Washington, D.C., and just making sure you're identifying and talking to your representatives. Protesting out there, my concern about that is what it might do to those kids, because everybody who is out there as an adult is very simply just doing the job they've been told to do, whether we like it or not. They are innocent in this, the kids are innocent in this, but the federal government is not. So let's make sure our protests and our voices are directed where they need to be. All right, any other questions? Any other concluding remarks, John?
Congressman Pfluger is on his way back from El Paso, and you're right, gentlemen, the scenes at the border are devastating. There is mass illegal migration entering the United States. Some are apprehended, many are not. This is a serious crisis. Later this week, there is a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives concerning amnesty. And I want to know, and it's a question that Congressman Pfluger will be asking, we want to know, was there any type of incentivizing by federal policies that contributed to this surge? That's a very important question, and we're not going to stop to know the answer. Thank you.
Okay, once again, thanks to Aaron Bailey and all of you for being here. We will try to update you. The judge will update you if we know anything, and we'll try to keep you updated. We'll hang out here if you have any questions you want to ask us.